Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. My name is Angela Zabel. That's me. And today we are going to be talking about illuminating our Firefly not plaz, paths, illuminating our Firefly paths, the unconventional journey with author and so much more as we get into this, Julie Wignall. And I can't wait to get into this as we talk about the fireflies in her life and fireflies throughout the world. So, who am I? My name is Angela Zabel. I have connected with spirit, working with a team in the non-physical my entire life, sharing messages with a multitude of realms. And I am also a teacher, coach, medium, radio show host, retreat host, gallery reader, speaker. I'm offering guidance, mediumship, intuitive sessions online and in person with group or single. I also have the Amplified Universe monthly membership. This is a group. Who are we? What are we doing here? What is our connection to us in the world? Learning what your role is and how to grow it. And with that, you can find out more about me at angelazabel.com and pretty much on all the social media aspects. And today, if I can get this right, we are here with Edge Magazine. Edge Magazine is the leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, and wellness and the mysteries beyond, sharing information, wisdom, and resources committed to promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support our collective journey to wholeness, and balance. Currently distributed in 30 states plus Canada, with over 17,000 magazines per printing and a vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. You can have the magazine shipped to your door, stay up to date with the newsletter, become a drop spot. And another show that's on Edge Magazine is the Being Curious Show with Kelly Wagner. And you can find out more about Edge Magazine at edgemagazine.net. And today we are here with Julie Wignall. She is living proof of the power of unconventional choices, showing there are many paths that lead to happiness and success. At just 14, she left high school to attend an experimental alternative school in the 1970s. You definitely were a breaker into all the new ways. While many doubted her path, Julie defied expectations, carving an extraordinary career spanning, hold on, let me get the back up. She's carved out an extraordinary career spanning national politics, international business, the arts, environmental conservation, and visionary leadership. Julie's journey from collaborating with corporations to leading innovative conservative initiatives earned her international acclaim, solidified her reputation as a visionary changemaker. Reflecting on her unconventional past, Julie realized she encountered many remarkable people throughout her life and career who, like her, had forged uncommon paths to create meaningful change. She coined the term fireflies to describe these visionaries, people who see beyond what is and take action to create a better life and make it reality. People who see beyond the lifelong student of, and I can't pronounce this word, what is it,
Jungian.
Julie? What is it?
It's Jungian psychology.
That's it. The Jungian psychology. I love it. Metaphysics and quantum physics. She has synthesized her knowledge and experiences into a multi-award-winning book, The Extraordinary Power of Fireflies: How to Shine Your Light Brighter and Transform the World. And we need more of that right now. Today, Julie is a sought-after consultant, workshop leader, coach, and speaker. She empowers change makers with the tools to align with their purpose and amplify their impact. And she shares what is possible when individuals harness their light to transform the world. And she is offering a free download. And this is it right here. It is beautiful. It is called Flying Lessons for Fireflies. And this is available on her website. You can download it, print it off. There's so much great information in there and taking you through step by step for you to become a firefly yourself. Definitely check that out. And go to her website, extraordinaryfireflies.com. And she also has a discovery call session on there. So make sure to check that out and get her book on Amazon. And I believe it's on your website. They can order it too. The Extraordinary Power of Fireflies, How to Shine Your Light Brighter and Transform the World. And she has Firefly Path coaching programs, individual programs, one-on-one coaching tailored to your specific needs or group coaching. It has strategic action planning, leadership and team building systems, thinking and analysis. Make sure to go on her website, extraordinaryfireflies.com. She's also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, so make sure to check her out. And Julie, I am so excited to have you here. We were having fun before we even started, so I can't wait to see where this one goes today. Thank you so much for being here. And your life is just crazy. How did what what were you always a little on the edge, or was that something you gained?
You know what? And this is one of the reasons why I chose fireflies, Angela. When a little kid goes outside and it's dusk and you see those little beetles that are lighting up, they're
Mm,
magical. And as a kid, you are more in tune and connected with the power inside of you. And you know anything is possible. And you know that you live in a world where anything's possible. And somehow, as life goes on, we kind of forget. It's like when you start out in elementary school and it's like, oh, you could grow up to be anything that you want to be.
yeah.
And then we become teenagers and they go, well, you should really be thinking about healthcare and buying a house and doing da 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 da. And we forget. We begin to forget. You and I think, are some of the lucky ones. You knew at a very young age that you had a great connection to beyond the veil in a world that's bigger than what you see. And I think of myself as one of the lucky ones too, because I never forgot. When
Yeah.
I talk to people and they go, oh, there's a light that goes on. Oh, fireflies. I remember seeing those growing up and oh, so magical. So my whole concept is awakening, reawakening what you already know inside, that we have that magic inside of us and we have that power inside of us and we have the capabilities to do anything and everything that we want. I think of myself as being unconventional, not so much as, although other people would say I'm a rebel, I'm a radical, I am all these, but my concept is when you want to make the world better or you just see this is what needs to happen, you're not resisting, you're not rebelling, you're just saying, I want that. And it may be unconventional, but if it's not hurting anybody, it just doesn't necessarily follow the rules. Move forward towards it. You're not doing this to hurt anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. I left school because I thought that I was done with school and that I hated learning. And it turned out that wasn't true at
Mm.
all. I was frustrated with the system. So I ended up in an alternative school, and my family moved from the Midwest to California, and I attended another and didn't quite feel it gel there. And I ended up leaving and going to a university.
Oh,
This was at a time when that was considered unconventional. And I bring this up to say I didn't do this because my grades were off the charts and they were wonderful. And if you went back to even like look at those original yearbooks, my name would probably be in there with, person least likely to graduate from high school. But I realized I loved learning and I wasn't getting what I needed within a system. And I challenged a university at the time, the dean there, and I said, you say that you're here to educate people, and I'm here telling you that I want to learn. So if you really have a code of values that you're going to stand by and you're really ethical, then you should be here to help me learn. And he did, to his
oh,
credit, and I
wow.
I truly appreciate it. But think about this. This was in the 1970s, and this was considered very unconventional. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
she's never gonna do anything. But look at this today. I was obviously not the only person who had this idea. Through the years, I've met all kinds of different individuals that have done the same thing. And today, you don't think twice when you meet a kid that is, oh yeah, I'm graduating from high school, but my high school's also allowed me to get a 2-year degree. So
Hmm. Yeah.
so my point is when we follow beyond, we have broken systems, we have outdated modes of thinking. When we go beyond that and we follow what we know to be true and genuine and authentic, it's considered unconventional now, but as we do it more and more and more, the unconventional becomes conventional. And as I say that, I told you I would share a story because my background is very, very strongly in science
I've got to hear this.
and in natural history and biology. And in science and through biology, I had an amazing mentor. I studied marine biology in Australia. And between, I was on the northeast coast of Australia, and between Australia and Singapore, there are about 42,000 islands.
Wow.
Some of them inhabited, some of them not. Some of them come with reputations for crazy things that go on, where, all the people there are psychic or telepathic, or they're so there happened to be one island that this mentor of mine said, you know what? I need to find out what that is. And he went and he spent a bit over a year living amongst the people on this island. And what he came back saying to me was absolutely fascinating. Today when we talk about, oh, you're a medium or you can connect with entities and spirits and light that you can't necessarily see, we call it woo-woo land, right?
Right.
And it's like, oh, it's kind of out there. Well, he went and spent this time on this island and he said, no, everything that they say is true. That these people all really have some great abilities, but it was different for each person. Each person had their place within the community. There were those that were healers. There were those that were mentors and guided younger people. There was a person in every village that was trained to go into the ocean and listen so that they would come back and they would say, well, this is what our weather report's going to be for the next 2 weeks. There's a ship that's
Interesting.
coming. It's a week later. And I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever been in the ocean and I go down and I go, what can I hear? And it's like, I'm not getting it. It's
I never got the weather report before.
exactly. And it was like, yes, these people were absolutely extraordinary. But what he came back with, which I thought was even a bigger message, he said to the people that live there, they're not extraordinary at all. They're not practicing anything that's extra in terms of extrasensory perception. They're just in tune with the cosmos in a much better way than we are. But he said, let's also think about it. They're also much more in tune with nature. We live in cities, we live in buildings, we are bombarded with information and technology, and that connection to nature, which I've always used, and to say to people, if you want to connect on a really spiritual level to know what is the meaning of life, and go out in nature and start connecting there. And he came back and he said, these are people that are just much more in tune with their environment and with nature. They understand that we live on a living planet that's got a heartbeat of its own, and they strive to kind of get in touch with that. And then he said the other thing that he found was there was no one who pointed out and said, oh, you're psychic or you're practicing telepathy, you have healing powers. It was just accepted. So in terms of that enculturation that we have of go, you've got to follow my path. You're out in woo land. No, this was something that was part of the culture that was expected, that people were working on that level of, what kind of downloads did you get today? Or, are you are you working to get in alignment with yourself, with the rest of the world? But it's a culture that accepts that. So is it coming back and dealing in terms of Western culture? Well, of course, they're going to be those people, and I call these the unconventional people that are still in touch with that, doing that no matter what, right? But
Right.
imagine if we had a culture that didn't make that something out of the ordinary, because the ordinary to me is an illusion. We are each and every one of us extraordinary in a different way. And imagine if we had a culture and society that celebrated that instead of saying, no, you have to be like everyone else.
I love that. And, I've got to say, one of my big passions with what I do is to show people, and for those of you who don't know, I work with a team in the non-physical on the other side. And for me, it's showing people our intuition, who we are and how you connect. That's our normal. What I'm doing, it's not anything special. It's just our normal. And for people to step into being, oh, it's normal and they're not totally crazy, yeah, that's good. But I
Well,
love,
and it is. It should be the norm. But on the other hand, it is special because we're all special. And
yeah,
that's a big thing that I think too that we lose sight over, which was all the reason why I wrote the book. I had a very crazy unconventional background, yes, that led me into politics on a national level, international business, and the theater and the arts. I've produced two television series, and I have a background in marine biology and have worked for many, many years in environmental conservation. Now, add to all that, the craziness. When we talk about Jungian psychology, Carl Jung was connected. I don't know if you've ever heard of Joseph Campbell, who studied mythology
have not.
connected people in very, very different ways on a subliminal basis and on a subconscious. And to get us in touch with the fact that, we've got a subconscious, we've got our conscious, and then we've got our superconscious, our higher self. And both Joseph Campbell and as a psychologist who also believed a lot in metaphysics, Carl Jung did a lot of work with that. And they did a lot through storytelling. If you've ever heard of the hero's journey, taking the whole hero's journey and being the hero of your own story, this is very much Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung. What's coming to light these days, everybody talks about the hero's journey, but there's another storyline called the Virgin's Promise. And
Oh,
that
do
was
tell.
the Virgin's Promise, where the hero's journey is, and you can find this in any fairy tale, in any myth, in any story. Anyone who is a fan of the Star Wars
Mm.
movies, they were all based on the hero's journey. It's the same concept, hero's journey, where you get the call. Usually, you get the call three times. First time, it's you don't listen. Second time, you don't listen. Third time, it's like, okay, I'm here. And you leave your known to explore something that's unknown. And there are things that help along the way. There's always some kind of a helper, a mentor that helps you through there. You always make your way around to back to that achievement of the hero's journey. But usually it's the end of any action movie. What happens? It's the biggest fight and the biggest battle.
Mm.
Well, when you're trying to accomplish something as a human being, as any of us do, we always go through, I don't deserve it, I'm not good enough, I have imposter syndrome. And when we're really close to achieving those goals, when I work with clients and like, oh my God, I'm having complete meltdowns, that's your sign that you're getting really close, because our final biggest battle is with our own demons in terms of getting there. So this is the hero's journey. When we talk about the Virgin's Promise, we're talking about societies and cultures that say what girls can do or not do, what's expected of males, whatever that is, what we're all enculturated with. This is how you're supposed to live your life. And when we challenge that, we're challenging the status quo of society and breaking through. It's when you had, women would be teachers originally, and oh, then men broke the barrier into that. So then that became acceptable. You had only men in positions in different religions, and now you have women. Those people who break that barrier, what they're doing is they're going through the level of what we call the Virgin's Promise, where they're changing themselves, but they're also bringing a whole new awareness to a society and a culture. So As for fireflies, fireflies are those people who see beyond what is to what can be. And instead of standing on the sidelines and wishing and hoping, they take action. And that action is what brings about these wonderful changes in the world. And some are more like the hero's journey, some are more like the Virgin's promise. But each person on that path is changing the world for the better in a unique way. Sometimes it's on an international level, sometimes it's national, sometimes it's just within your community, and sometimes you're busy at home just being a caretaker.
Mm.
As long as you're addressing your needs and the needs of those around you, and you're doing it clearly and with vision, you're Firefly and you're impacting the world. And I know I have this varied background, but when I went to write the book, I wanted to write a call to action. And that meant and I thought if I read my own book, I'd go, yeah, that was good for her. But she's in that case. I don't think I could do that. So
Good nutcase.
but what I wanted to say is that there are books like this is how to diet. You have to follow this diet. And if you this is the only way to lose weight. Don't follow anything else. Or you want to make money, you want to make $1 million in a year, follow my book. Don't listen to any other advice, just mine. And my concept is there's more than one path to the top
Yeah.
of the mountain. It's I'll share my experience and the basic lessons that are learned, but you don't have to do this exactly like I did it. You need to do your own way. So I sought to find people all over the world that were amazing fireflies doing incredible things, and I wanted to highlight them. Now, here's your behind the scenes story.
Yeah.
And this is COVID, and I'm writing this book, and I'm reaching out to all of these people that I'm writing about. I want them to know that I would like to include them in the book. This is what I'm looking at writing. I'd love you to correct me if there's anything that's not there. I want it to be something that you're comfortable with sharing with the public.
Right.
My first group of people, Angela, that I was going to write about would be names that you'd probably go, I think I've heard of that person, or I think I've heard that story. I went to start connecting with these people, and I found out that yes, and they had made big headlines,
Mm.
but they were all fake. And nobody was doing what they said they were doing. And it's that whole thing that we face today as a society, right? You go, oh, so and so has the perfect life. Look at them on Instagram, on
Yes.
Facebook. And you pull back the curtains and things are not as they seem. How many influencers, unfortunately, have taken their own lives because they're miserable to everybody else. They look perfect. And we all fall victim to that. And I'm sitting here like I know this all, and I'm sharing this with you. I just fell victim to that. Last week, I was on a Zoom call with a number of people, and there's this woman talking, and she looks great. And I'm staring at her background, going, her house is immaculate.
Mm.
Everything looks perfect. How does she do that? I'm juggling projects and schedules and this and that and animals and pets. And her place looks perfect. I'm having a hard time listening to what she says because it's like, how does she do that? I'm feeling like so inadequate. But then she moved and she had been sitting really still. But then she
Oh.
moved her head and all of a sudden part of her hair disappeared. And I went, oh, it's one of the fake backgrounds that you use. So I'm sitting here obsessing over somebody has it so much more together than me. We all fall victim to this.
Yeah.
So my first group, and here it was COVID, and I was like, is there anybody that's there in the world that's doing wonderful things? And I had a wonderful, wonderful publisher that said to me, take a breath, take some time off, and go back and dig deeper. And,
Mm.
when you talk about having universal helpers and being
Yeah.
guided from other sides, I cannot to this day tell you how I found all the people that I found, but I can tell you that I have two examples in every chapter of people in every field, from science to the arts to in business, starting their own business to starting organizations. And every single one of them is not only authentic, but they continue to inspire me
Yeah.
every day. If I'm having a bad day, I go, oh, look what these people are doing. And they're still doing and they're still growing, which is super exciting. And the other thing that I wanted to do in each chapter of my book is I don't want it to be a how-to. I want it to be a call to action and discovery. So I share the lessons in each chapter. I share two different examples of different people and groups that are doing things, approaching with the same lessons, but approaching it differently. And I end
Right.
each chapter with an exercise that is to think about how can you take the words on the page and the information you've gained and how can you put it to use in your life in your own way. One of my favorite quotes of Carl Jung is he said, you know, if the path before you is really clear, you're probably on somebody else's.
Mm,
And we,
true.
right? And each have a path to follow, but we have to make it our own. And the concept of fireflies as a metaphor is as we do that, we are illuminating the way. We become like lighthouses that send out that message, just like a firefly, because they communicate through blinking and through lights. We're sending out that message to other people of this is what I'm striving to do. And above all of the clatter of our society, there are other lighthouses that go, oh, we've transcended all the baloney that's going on this level, and I see you. Let's collaborate. Let's build a partnership. Let's work together, or let's at least support each other and see how we can glow together. And as we illuminate that path for all the people that are sitting on the sidelines, hoping and wishing and dreaming, it illuminates paths for them where they go, oh, if this person can do it, I can do it too. And it's like you're giving permission to others to say, come on and find your own path and light your own light. And we're all here to support, which is kind of neat. Most people see fireflies like in their backyards, and it's that one tiny little beetle. And I
Yeah.
tell people, if you think that you can't change the world or have an impact on the world because you're too small, think of the impact that that tiny little firefly has on you. But I'll tell you, there are two places in the world, one in the area of the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee in the United States, and the other is in the forest of Malaysia, where
Oh,
fireflies congregate by the hundreds and the thousands, and they call them the synchronous fireflies. In Malaysia, they say you could take a boat down the river, and the trees just look like they're all Christmas trees lit at night.
whoa.
In the
How
Smoky
cool.
Mountains, imagine it gets really, really dark and it becomes so dark in the forest you can't see the tips of your fingers. And these are a species of firefly that come out later at night, not at dusk. And fireflies, there are over 2,000 species of fireflies,
Did
they
not know that.
and they glow in different colors. So
Really?
there's blue, there's yellow, there's green, there's orange. So this is a family that embraces a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
So imagine here it is, and they don't come out until 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's so dark, you're wondering what's going on. And it begins with what they call the blue ghost fireflies, which go along the
Mm.
forest floor. And you look down, it becomes enchanted. They look like little landing lights and they're in blue. And then come the synchronous fireflies, which are in a yellowish green, and they light up. There will be maybe 100, 200 that light up at the same time and do their flashing signal. And another group of 1 to 200 will answer them. And another group of 200 will come and say, we're looking for someone to communicate with us. The entire forest makes you feel
Wow.
like you've walked into a fairy tale of enchantment. It is one of the most brilliant and amazing things. I defy anyone to walk into a situation like that, experience it, and not believe in magic or in the power of nature or all of us, because it is absolutely breathtaking.
I love that. And we've got fireflies here. I'm in the Midwest, and so we get the fireflies, and it's just magical at that time of year. I look forward to it every year when they come out. And what you were saying too is this is knowing everybody's doing things differently. There's all different varieties. You have your different color fireflies. You have different people all doing different unique things. Just like you blazed a new path, a different path that hadn't been there before. But you made it welcoming. I'm just hearing from my team. They're saying with you, you have made the path welcoming, welcoming for others to step on the same path if they wish and then veer off whenever they want. They don't have to follow the exact path. And that's something with you is so, I love the fact that you put things in the book and then you listed other things. Here's ways, here's other ways, giving people options so they can make it their own. That's so important. So my team is just saying this is a time in our world not to have people you put on pedestals because that's how we lived for many, many years,
Yeah.
but instead look at people in front of you on a path or doing something differently as going, I can get there. I don't have to worship that person. I don't have to do it exactly like them, but I can move forward at my own pace, on my own path. And sometimes they just need to know there is a path. And that's something you've done. You've created the ability to say there is a path. It doesn't have to be conventional, and that's so key. And that's your it's exciting to talk with you because you've done things so differently and you've done it at a younger age too. Have you moved schools, you did things when once things weren't, now it's more common to have that. You've blazed it to be more common, but at that point it wasn't common. Were your family supportive of the moves you've made, or was it just you just saying, I'm doing this?
It was pretty much me just saying, I'm doing this. I did have a very, very supportive mother she chose to get divorced at a time when that was also unconventional. And if you were a good girl from a good family, you did not do this. And all the kids that I grew up with that, you go, oh, this is my crew, these are my friends. No one was allowed to speak to me anymore because now I was from a broken family. There was a whole different way of looking at things than there is now because, again, more and more people did that unconventional, which became conventional. But it made me question everything. And you have to start looking around. And when people are these naysayers and they say, you can't do this,
Mm.
or you shouldn't do this, or this is not a path for you to take, you need to start sitting down and going, is this a person whose opinion I respect? Because what have they done? It's really easy for everyone to say, no, you can't do this and that, but what have they done? And is this someone that you look up to give you that type of feedback when you're traveling, like you were talking about, when we're all on the same path, the firefly path, which is just the path that say we're all committed to shining our lights bright and making our own impact on the world. Because like you said, today and today more than ever, the world needs not just me, not just you, it needs every person that is listening to this or that may listen to this in the future. It needs every single one of us. We all have our own superpowers. We all do things in a little bit of a different way. The world needs every one of us in our unique energies to help bring the world to where we need to get to make things better. And it's a scary time, and a lot of people are really concerned, and they're really concerned for the future, and I understand that. And that is like this reality that we deal with, and I'm not saying don't deal with it, but I'm saying put that to a side for a minute. And I talk about this as when we're dealing in terms of the politics and the systems. And, I actually used to say I've worked in Fortune 500 companies where I had to walk into boardrooms. And I have to tell you, it was a lot more terrifying walking into a PTA meeting at a local school than it was dealing with these major corporate boardrooms. Whenever it's a system, and you know that this one doesn't like this one. It's egos. We're all dealing in terms of egos on that level. So when you look around at the world and you go, but these are systems that don't work and they're outdated, and don't push against them. I say let them go, because you're always going to have the fight amongst the egos. And while they're busy doing their own fighting, this is the place where you can now rise in what I call those spaces in between, undetected. So there's nobody to really stop, so that you can go and do the things that need to be done. And by the time somebody stops and they turn around and they notice you, you've done some pretty neat things. And now people go, I think I want to learn from that. I think I want to be more like that, because if you can do that, again, so can I. And the people that I write about, they've all been unconventional in their own way. They all had ideas, and sometimes they were simple as a nurse who worked in a hospital and said, gosh, I can't believe how much stuff we waste. What if I collected it and recycled it and used it for people who need it? And she got the approval from the hospital. And a year later, she had like 2,000 pounds of goods that she collected, and she started collecting them from other hospitals. And she ended up starting a fabulous organization called Partners for World Health. And they take, those things, those band-aids, those first aid kits, and it becomes almost like a Doctors Without Borders, where they'll have nurses that come and join them. And they go all over the world taking what they can to help people in need, not only here in the States, but in other areas as well. It's not a religious thing where you have to believe in something to receive the treatment. It's something that says it's humanitarian. Let's all do things. And now she was a nurse. Not everyone has those credentials or qualifications. And I
Right.
bring this up because I have clients all the time who go, oh, I want to do this so badly, but I don't have a degree. I can't do this. And what they don't know is that I have other clients who go, oh, I have a degree, but it's in the wrong field, so I can't do this. There's always a reason. And I tell people, forget those credentials in terms of if you have that concept and idea of what you want to do, and focus on the knowledge and the education and what you can learn to make that happen. I have one of the gentlemen that I wrote about was working as an engineer on a landfill in Paraguay.
Oh, wow.
This is Fabio Chavez, and he was a musician, but he didn't have any degree or any background in terms of music. He's working in this landfill. This is the poorest area in Paraguay, and we're talking about people who are so poor that they have nothing. I mean, I don't think there's any place quite in the United States that could compare about this, but they're poor, which doesn't mean that they're ignorant. They were
Right.
incredibly innovative in taking different pieces from the landfill and making homes and creating places to live. And
Mhm.
Fabio looked around and he saw all these kids and he thought, oh, I love music and I have this idea. I would love to take these kids and teach them music and create like an orchestra. So, of course, how do we think? We have this linear thinking that goes, oh, maybe I should go and see if I can find funding. And if anybody wants to give me money and I can buy
Mhm.
all these instruments for all of these kids. But then he stopped and went, wait a minute. If I get the money to buy these instruments for the kids, how long will they have them before they're stolen? This is an
Right.
area where people don't have anything. So, looking at their ingenuity and their innovative behaviors, he went to some of the people who were already there working with the landfill and said, can we make musical instruments from the things in the landfill? And what they created, it's called the Recycled Orchestra of Kachura, which is the area that it's from. And they made, imagine, violins out of discarded license plates. There is a giant timpani drum where the sides of it are discarded medical waste. They're huge x-rays that were thrown away. And he encouraged the kids in terms of music and to find anything that they liked. Well, a lot of the kids were big fans of Metallica, the music group, and they wrote Metallica a letter. And how does this work in terms of the universe and serendipity and that light shines to another light? The band said, we are fascinated by what you're doing and we want to come visit you. And they did.
Wow.
And not only did they go visit them, the kids ended up traveling as an opening act for Metallica for a few of their concerts. They then traveled with Stevie Wonder, and now they do performances just as the recycled orchestra of Kichura. But it wasn't a PhD in music that started this whole thing. It was someone with an idea, and
Mm.
ideas and imagination, that power of play, are so much more powerful in terms of moving us forward than a lot of the other things are. And even today, Fabio's, the kids wear t-shirts, and on the back of the t-shirts, their motto is, the world sends us trash, and we send back music. And
Yeah.
that's a whole different type of, it's like a paradigm shift of not feeling entitled or that we're owed. We have a responsibility in being here to help make things better in any and every way we can, whether it's through kindness every day, whether, it doesn't always have to be giant gestures.
Yeah.
Sometimes little gestures mean a whole lot.
It's interesting you brought that up because I went through and I kind of like, oh, I'd like to cover Fabio and his band, and I had it highlighted here, and I'm like, that's perfect because it really shows, like you said, people are like, I can't do this. I don't have a degree. I don't have this knowledge. And my team is laughing. My team is laughing. They're saying, all of you have the phone and all of you have YouTube. Everything is on there. Anything you ever want to learn is there. There's no excuses anymore. There's no excuses.
Exactly right. It is exactly right. It's like the Matrix, where they just give me 2 minutes and I'm going to learn a new language. I'm going to learn this. And yes, it's all there for us to figure out whatever it is that we're interested in. But even when we know that, we tend to forget.
Yeah.
And which becomes really easy. And I, like I said, I'm human. I'm as guilty of this as everyone else. And I actually wrote a final story in the book that was my epilogue, that was like, oh, when here I am, and I'm giving you all this great information, and I know this, and but we all forget. I finished this book. I told you about these wonderful, wonderful fireflies in the Smoky Mountains. And I went, this is how you finish the manuscript. I have to go while I'm just sending this into the publisher. I want to go and I need to experience firsthand the
Mm.
synchronous fireflies. So I go thinking, okay, I can just set up a trip to go. It's not going to be any difficulty at all. And this is the story of this whole book, actually, in a nutshell. And I go to the website to find out where you go and how you do this. And I find out there's a lottery system
For the fireflies?
to go see the fireflies. And I
Wow.
went, who else in the world except me wants to go see the fireflies? So I'm sure a bunch of people that like the national parks will put in to go see the fireflies, but I'll put in for the lottery. But of course, I'm gonna win this lottery. I've got the attachment. I just wrote the book. So of course I'm in complete alignment, ask in the universe will provide you what you need. And like you said, the big sense of humor over there.
Yeah, they got a big sense of humor.
I had no idea. There are thousands. There were like 29,000 people that put in for this lottery every year.
Wow.
But it's okay. It's okay. I wrote the book. I'm going to manifest this. I'm not even thinking about it because I know I'm going to attract it. So they announced the lottery winners, and guess who didn't win the lottery? That was me. And I walked around just so depressed and so dejected. How could this happen? And this is exactly what happens with life. So, what do I do? Well, my background is in biological science. So, you reach out to other scientists and they go, oh, well, of course not. Maybe next year. You'll try next year and see if you get in the lottery, or the year after until this happens. And I was like, this is horrible. And I was playing around on Facebook. and I found a page of photographers photographers that were really into photographing things that glow in the dark and fireflies. And they had like all these pictures from the fireflies in the Smoky Mountains. And I'm going, for how are they doing this and winning the lottery? I wrote the book, they're just taking the pictures. So I reached out to these people, and you want to talk about a wake-up call. I had a photographer say to me, Julie, we know you're a biologist. And the park, what they do is they close off this area for a
Mm.
week, usually in every June, and you can't get out there to see the fireflies. And he said to me, do you think that they send a memo to the fireflies so that the fireflies know to only show up for that week? No. He said, so of course they're going to be there the week before, they're going to be there the week after. 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, we know it's a window, but you don't have to be there for the lottery. And actually, you're going to be happy if you go
Mm.
without the lottery. You don't have the park service telling you what to do, where to sit, giving you a lecture. You can just go and experience it. And I went, oh, th- this is amazing. But then we thought, well, what if it's like not there? So I worked with this group and I got probably 3 or 4 different suggestions on places to go. So I took my husband and daughter and I said, if you want to go on this adventure with me, here we go. And we flew into North Carolina and we drove to Tennessee where these fireflies are. And I went to check these different places. Well, the first place that I went, where they supposedly had a great showing of the fireflies, the park rangers and the biologists said, we're really sorry. We know that you want to stay through the evening to see them, but we've had a lot of bear sightings here and we can't afford to let you stay.
Mm.
Okay, safety first, no problem.
Right.
Check this off the list. I'll go to the next place. Well, the next place in a different location that we went to was deep in an ancient forest, and someone had written a thing. A lot of times we get these signs and we don't listen.
Right. It happens.
This guy had written this beautiful piece about sitting on a bench and watching the fireflies, and it was just so lovely. And this was in the area that someone had suggested that I go. So this is summer. We're dressing up. I've gotten mosquito repellent on and long pants and coats, and we're sweating, and I'm hiking up this path, and I'm going, it's really dark here. And I'm not really comfortable. What if something happens? They tell you when you're looking for fireflies, you carry these little flashlights that you put a red cellophane over it so you don't
Oh.
disturb their light patterns. But it's getting really dark, and all that's going through my mind is like this would be the place where serial killers would come if we stay on this path. Somebody's going to find us in a week. There's going to be an arm here and a leg there. And I'm just thinking these horrific, gruesome thoughts. There's absolutely nobody else there. And I said, this is crazy. We're going to make our way back to the parking lot, which we did. And as we did, this empty place, another car pulls up. And it was like, oh my gosh, here come the slashers. They're here. They're
Oh,
here.
the serial killers.
And we see a car door open and close. And then we see 3 flashlights with little red lights on them
Mm.
going, oh, these are other Firefly people. Well, it is so dark, we can't see each other. We did see a number of fireflies with these guys. Because I'm looking around and I'm right there in the parking lot and I'm looking aside and I go, oh my gosh, there's a bench. The guy wrote about just sitting on the bench watching the fire.
Bench.
We didn't have to walk all the way up that trail and back. We could have just been here.
Uh,
But we spent an entire night talking with people who had red flashlights. I could not have pointed them out if I saw them for breakfast the next day where they were because we were in total blackness. And I thought if that's all we see, that's okay because at least it's something. But I really want to try the big synchronous fireflies in the Smoky Mountains. And we went to the Smoky Mountains. And again, this is how this all works, taking these different unconventional paths all the way through. And it's so easy to say, well, this didn't work and this didn't work. So the universe is sending me signs that I should quit. No, the universe is sending you signs to say, let's try something different. So we went to the ranger station in the Smoky Mountains, really excited to see this. A park ranger says, "Oh, what are you doing here? We're here to see the fireflies." And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was last week and it's all over." So we smiled and we said, "Thank you. We're just still going to go out and see what's there." "Oh, I don't think you should. There's been a bear that's been noted in that area, and this could be really, really dangerous." So again, here it is. We're all the way here, and there's supposed to be this bear. So we drove to an overlook, and I said, "Let's just get out and just give me a minute just to kind of align and figure out what we're going to do. Do we call it a night, or how does this go?" So we pull off of this overlook, and there is only one other car, and there's a guy sitting barefoot out of the side of his car, and he's talking on his cell phone. And he gets off the phone. He said, "Hey, you guys, would you like a photo of you?" And I said, "I think I'm like too depressed to have a photo right now. I'm not sure if this is a memory I'm going to want or not." And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I come down here to try to call my girlfriend. It's the only place I get cell service. I'm one of the park rangers." "Well, what's going on?" And I said, "We wanted to go see the fireflies, but we've been told to stay away because there's a bear." And he said, "Don't worry about that. We found that bear early this morning. We tranquilized him and he's already been moved. The place is free and clear. And I was just out there last night and you're going to see fireflies galore."
Wow.
And went, okay. So we go to the area where the fireflies are. And we see a couple photographers that are set up, but we also see families that have come out to see the fireflies. And this is just as the sun is beginning to set. And they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. And we start watching families leave. And they go, "Well, I guess they're not out tonight. Let's go and have dinner." And when I thought about it later, it's like, how many people, how many times you're so close to getting exactly what you want, and you go, "Okay, that's it. I'm going to give up right now." And we watched all of these people leave. And it wasn't until later, as the forest started getting dark, that all of a sudden we start seeing flashing here and flashing there. And again, the blue ghost lights among the forest floor. And it's like, holy cow, what's happening? And you start pointing your fingers up, going, "Oh my gosh, look here and look here and look there." And of course, nobody can see what you're pointing at because it's
It's dark.
but the whole forest was, like I said, completely illuminated. And when I left, and this is why I wrote this, as and I called the publisher, I said, "I've got one more story that I have to share at the end of this," because here I am writing this, and it's like time for me to take my own advice. But this is how we do things. We think that we know, and we think that we've got this all planned out and this is how it's going to go. And the plans don't work out. So we just walk around dejected, going, "I guess that's not meant for me," instead of finding the alternative paths and saying there's different ways to get up to the top of the mountain. There's all, and yes, there are going to be obstacles and there are going to be challenges along the way. But I always say, if you're a firefly, you're allowed to rest. You're allowed to take a break, but you're not allowed to give up. You don't want to go be sitting in a restaurant over a nice dinner, say, "Well, we tried and it just didn't happen," when you had the opportunity for an absolute miracle to be taking place in front of you.
That is so, so true what you just said because I mean, look at the times. I mean, there's times I'm like, I don't think it's going to work out. I need to, I don't know. Do I just give up on it or do I look at something else? And to know when you're a firefly, and all the people, I'm just going to say, my team is also saying, all the people listening here, all the people who will be listening, they are fireflies. That's why you're here. There's no other reason for you to be here. You're a firefly. You're looking at what can I do to take my light and make it brighter and flash wherever I need to go. Your unique light, and my team is saying, your unique light of every person is what's needed. So learn that this is a time to trust your intuition, tap within yourself, and go, what else can I learn from it? And they're saying with you, you went up and you're like, I'm just going to stop here and rest. And that's
Yeah.
when you ran into the person you needed to get you exactly where you needed to be. But you
That-
still had to trust yourself when everybody else left to say, I know it's here. I know it's
yeah.
here.
And we don't trust ourselves. And it's one of the reasons I put this in flying lessons for fireflies. We have to learn to trust ourselves. It begins with us. And you have, there's the saying that when you have a desire, the whole universe conspires to
Mm.
help you get where you want to go. And it's sending you signals. It's speaking a different language, and it's a language that works in a lot in vibrations. And we're not aware enough. And I always tell people it begins with your awareness of yourself, how you're feeling. I can't begin to tell you the times I'll have I have a joke that I bring up a lot with somebody I was working with, and I said, "Oh my gosh, you're being so snarky today. What is going on?" And he stopped and he said, "Oh my gosh, I have a headache. I have an allergy headache, and I've been staring at the computer so long." And I'm like, "How could you have a headache and not know about it?" Because we don't pay attention. And it's like when we talk about getting butterflies in our stomach, or there was something that just told me, don't go that way, go a different way. We all have different tells, and we need to get to know them so that we know which way to go, and we can listen to them. I joke that in the 1970s, they always talked about it as ESP, extrasensory perception,
Yes.
and then it became psychic abilities. And today, you'll hear everybody talk about intuition. Trust your intuition. And it's the same thing as what we call everything else. But the concept is being aware of yourself
Yeah.
and the tings and that we get and the pings, and then becoming more aware of your surroundings. I mean, I put in flying lessons for fireflies. There's what I call a grocery store exercise. Let's increase your awareness. These are simple things. And, we've all had those experiences where someone goes, "Oh, I'm in so much alignment. I just took my yoga class and namaste." And they get in the car to drive home and they're screaming, "You idiot, you just cut me off." And it was, wait, where was that alignment? So I talk about doing this in a grocery store. How do you maneuver in a grocery store? You say, "I'm here to pick up blank," but do you notice if there are any other items on sale? What do you do if there's somebody's blocking the aisle with a grocery cart? Do you push it out of the way? Do you slam it? Do you say, "Excuse me"? Do you go around it? Or do you go down a different aisle and find a different way to go? And what about the people that are there? Would you be aware if there was a woman at the end of the aisle who was short and needed help reaching a tall shelf?
Mm.
Or if, there was someone else who needed help with something else, wasn't really sure. Do you take the time to talk to a cashier if there's a human being checking you out?
Yeah.
Instead of the self-checkouts. But, do you talk if there's a security person there, a produce person? Do you stop and acknowledge the people within the store? And that's part of how we begin once we get our own awareness,
Mm.
increasing it to the world around us, and that's how you begin to build that intuition and begin to build that trust in yourself to go, "I don't know why, but I just feel that there's something that I need to do, or a different way to go, or something else."
And that's so important because a lot of us, we get into this tunnel vision. I like to say you're just doing your thing. This is what I need to get done. You've got your list to do, and you just go dum 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 and check off on the list, but you don't
Yeah.
turn your head one way or another. You don't notice what's all around you. And that's so important. And it's funny, you were talking about the people that the man had went to check out like their psychic abilities, all that. Because my husband and I were just talking the other day. They're like, years ago, there wasn't weathermen, and yet the farmers had to know, okay, is it clear to do what I need to do? Is this a good time to put the crops in? They didn't have someone with a 10-day forecast. They had to be in tune to nature around them. And we have it all within us. We just
Exactly.
kind of lost it. It's like, oh, my team is just saying, think of it like when you learn a foreign language, but if you don't use it all the time, you lose a lot of it. It's still there, and as you talk with someone, it starts coming back. It's just learning to do it again. It's learning to step into it again. That's so important as we go forward, and that's something you're showing with the Firefly book. And I've got to say the lessons, the flying lessons, and then so you have when people buy the book, and I encourage people to buy the book, The Extraordinary Power of Fireflies. And then do you have the workbook that they get with that book then also?
Yes, and actually, even without buying the book, you can download. You can, and that's what it's there for because it's important. The workbook is on the website as well as the flying lessons for fireflies. And it's so that if you're going through this and you go, I don't want to write in the book, or you want to share it with someone else, that you can just download just the workbook because it's an ongoing thing and it changes. And it doesn't have to be, well, I said this 5 years ago. I don't feel that way now. Well, good, because that tells me that you've grown. That's why when I work with people, I work on strategic action plans instead of just strategic plans. I used to get paid a lot of money by organizations and corporations to do their annual strategic plan. And you'd get this check and they say, thank you very much. And they take this thick book and they would put it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
That's not what it's supposed to be. So I work on strategic action plans that say every 3 to 4 months, let's talk about what you want to do. And let's take a look at how you want to do this. And let's create your own path, your own guide. Somebody is comfortable working this way, somebody else is comfortable working a different way. Well, let's figure out how you want to do this. And then the concept of an action plan, it's like taking a sailboat out. After 2, 3 months, you got to give it a little bit of time. But after 2 to 3 months, you go, is this working? Do I need to trim the sails? Maybe I need to cut this out and go a little bit in a different direction, but it's where you're
mm-hmm.
constantly moving forward. I write in the book about the Pareto principle, which is a 20-80 principle. And the concept started with biology, where they realized if you grow a whole field of peas for some reason of your plants, 20% of them seem to do all the work, while 80% of them are. And they use that in business a lot. When you have a vision of something that you want to do, we all spend time doing busy work, or doing things that need to keep happening to keep things going. Oh, I want to do this, but I need to do social media posts. I need to do marketing. I need to do da 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 da, whatever that is. And a lot of these things are things that you need to do to keep your business up to date. But there's
Right.
20% of what you do that is stepping out on the edge. It's taking a risk. It's calling someone that you're a little bit fearful to call. This is like a big thing. And could I just send them a letter? No, I need to get on the phone and call or show up at something that you feel a little bit insecure about doing. It's those taking the chance and putting yourself out there. Those are the 20% that change everything else. If you're going, oh, I'm so busy, I have to keep writing my social media posts because people are following me and this keeps going, and you don't do that 20%, it's just going to stay the way that it is. You do that 20%, and all of a sudden, you're reaching more people. All of a sudden, you're making connections, you're making partnerships, you're doing collaborations where you're also having a bigger impact.
Love that. It's interesting. My team is kind of laughing to me, because everything you're mentioning so far are the things I had wrote down. The Pareto effect, the 80-20 rule. I haven't wrote down that. And they're saying,
They're talking to
see?
me. I'm trying to listen here. They're talking in terms of those things that yes, that we need out. But we instinctively know most of this stuff. It's
Yeah.
inside of us. And it's a matter of increasing our awareness so that we know that we can do the things we want to do. It's just like you talked about with the farmers. And I've been in that situation with farmers going, no, I don't feel comfortable planting. I'm going to wait another week or two. And I don't care what the weather service says to me. I've been doing this for so many years. Um, I just know. I know it's time to do it now. I know, it's to wait. And what do we do today? We don't even open the window or walk outside. We pick up our phones and we say, oh, what's the weather going to be like today? And it's like you're sitting in a house, look out the window, and let's see if you can figure out what the weather is going to look like today or what it feels like. And we're really out of tune with nature. And that is our reminder of the magic that we all have inside of us that's all there to be. But think about it. I tell people we don't even know what makes us happy anymore. When
Yes.
we're little, we know there's magic. We know that need to play. We know what makes us happy. If I said to you, what's your favorite color? Every kid can tell you. What's your favorite thing to eat? Every kid can tell you. Um, and then as you get older, it's like, oh, but I like peanut butter on banana chips or what? No, you don't like that. People start telling us what we like, right? I'm not really comfortable going to Aunt Mary's house. Of course you are. You love your Aunt Mary. And it's like, for whatever reason, there's a vibe that's not working.
Yeah.
Yes, go to this kid's birthday party, even though you don't like them or they're a bully because you're friends, you all go out. So we get enculturated with this. So by the time we become teenagers, we have no idea what makes us happy. And I find to this day, I will sit down with adults and go, okay, what makes you happy? And what? We don't think about that. I had an opportunity where I was working with at-risk youth.
Mhm.
And was working in a beautiful area in Utah with 15 and 16-year-old boys who had been in so much trouble at home. They came from all over the country. Their parents had kicked them out and said, you're just trouble. We can't handle it. You're going to go to this boarding school. And I was brought in to test out a conservation science program
Oh,
with them.
okay.
So I'm working with these boys and I notice, oh my gosh, first of all, they're all incredibly bright. And you get that feeling that they all got in trouble with the system, probably because they were all bored and nothing was really connecting for them. But I also noticed that each one of them was carrying a lot of anger and a lot of frustration. So after the second day of working with them, I said to them all, if I were your fairy godmother and I'm here and I'm knocking at your door and I said, your wish is my command, tell me what would make you happy. I'm
Mhm.
going to bring it all in for you. What would you ask for? And I'm expecting these kids to say, oh, I want to be a huge famous rap star. I want to have $1 million. And they stared at me with blank faces. And
Wow.
one of the boys said, no one ever asks us that. No one has ever asked me what makes me happy.
Wow.
And over the next couple of days, they really thought about it and they would come back with little things like the first boy came to me and he said, I realize that what makes me happy is when I'm at home on Sunday mornings, my dad and I make pancakes for the family. And I really love
Mhm.
doing that. That really makes me happy. And another one of the guys came up and said, I love walking my dog. Someone else, I love taking walks in the woods. And you realize that the things that make us happy for the most part, they're the experiences that
Mhm.
connect us with each other, with nature, and with the world around us. And we tend to
Wow.
forget that because all of a sudden people tell you could be happy after you've made this much money, after you get this job, after you graduate from high school, after you graduate from college, and it's always after. But then we turn around and contradict that and we say, oh, it's the journey, not the destination. And it's like,
Yeah.
but we give lip service to that, right? But
Yep.
it's enjoying those moments as we make it up the mountain. Because what do we do whenever we have any kind of accomplishment? We sit at the top of that hill or mountain, we pat ourselves on the back for a total of 10 seconds, and we don't talk about all the things that went right. We talk about all the things that went wrong. Oh my gosh, can you remember when we did this and it was such a disaster and that was so funny? And we laugh about it. And we immediately turn around and we say, oh, but there's another hill, there's another mountain, I have another thing. We don't say, that was it, I accomplished it, now I can get all the goods and it's over. No, because that's what life is about. We always want to go on the next adventure. And I really believe that one of the things we need to start teaching kids and adults as well
So,
is that, we think that that path is supposed to be clear and it's uncomfortable when you don't know. I don't know what the future is going to bring. I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. But as long as you have that desire and you have that focus of what you want, it's a different feeling that I think it's something that we need to work on to say it's okay that we don't know. And it's okay that it's uncomfortable, but don't put in a plan just because it sounds like the right thing.
Yeah.
Give it a chance to open up because you never know where it'll last and where it will take you to.
That's something so true. And so many people are this I'm just going to say a lot of people, it seems like they set themselves up for failure
Yeah.
because they put this up there. And if I achieve this, I'm going to be happy. Well, they get there and they're still not happy. And they can't figure out why because I achieved the goal, but you didn't get the goal in here. You weren't paying attention to yourself. You weren't saying, what does make me happy? And I love the fact that you're saying that you're putting it out there. And I've met people, and there was a time in my life I didn't know what made me happy either. I didn't know. And it's okay to be in that point, but then to go, okay, what is it? And start searching and start
Right.
looking. It's so
And I
important.
tell people, because I've been in the same position, and I tell people when you don't know, and that's one of the reasons why I have this long checkered career to be honest. I don't know. It might be this way and it might be that way. But I tell people when you don't know, take a step and go forward, even if you're learning what you don't want to do, even if
Yeah.
you're learning what doesn't make you happy, it's putting you closer to what does make you happy. And what does make you happy is allowed to change. I talk about that
Ah,
book
yes.
too. There are those kids that are like 4 years old that go, I'm going to grow up to be a dentist and that's all I want. And that's fine. And I go, great for them. I was not one of those kids. And for the rest of us that aren't sure, maybe the whole purpose in not being sure is so that we can experience all those different things. Because in the end, we sit there and we go, wow, what a ride that's
Okay.
been. And we appreciate every wrong road that we went down and everything that didn't work out because for some reason that took us to someplace else that did work out. I start with a ground zero when I'm doing workshops where, in terms of talking about what makes you happy, the crux of this is I go for four pillars. I think every person wants to be seen, every person wants to be heard, every person wants to feel like they're doing something important and meaningful. So sometimes if you can't figure out what's making you happy, you focus on and say, what gives my life meaning? And then from there, everyone wants to feel that they're connected to something bigger,
Mhm.
which is why the whole concept of, oh, this is just woo-woo talking to a universe that's bigger than us. Yeah, the universe is bigger than us, and
Yeah.
welcome that and be delighted and make the connections because then it really is, there are no limitations in terms of what you can do.
Love that. Love that. And there really are no, the limitations are the beliefs we've put upon ourselves and others. And my team is just coming back in. They're saying they just want people to understand when you talked about the boys you were working with, how you felt they were very bright but just bored, and how when you were in school, you were bright, obviously, but you were also bored and with how it was you weren't being taught the way you needed to be taught. And my team is just saying they want people to realize there's a lot of people out there on the cutting edge, and people look at them or they're doing things differently, and people who aren't doing so well in school and they're looking at them like they're a failure. But actually, a lot of these people are extremely bright. They learn in different ways, and it's people like you and people like them, and they're just saying, for those people out there who struggled in school or who really didn't mesh in, you're the ones that are here to change the system going forward.
That is such an important point. They've done research, these kids that do the gifted and talented program, and they're at the top of their class, and then they go to college. And even because I still do courses through Yale, and these kids, they do stuff and they finally met it in, and then they're miserable and they have these breakdowns and they go, oh my gosh, these are not the individuals that end up doing these remarkable, amazing things because they're terrified of failing. They have had everything has worked out and they're terrified to take a risk because what if it doesn't work out? And what a lot of the kids that are now adults and they go, but I wasn't good at chemistry and I wasn't good at this and I did, you know what? Most people aren't good at chemistry. If you want to, and if you want to communicate something to people, communicate them in a way that they can understand. If I stand up as a scientist and I'm giving you all kinds of formulas and I say, but this is what I want you to learn, you're going to give me the blank glazed look, right? But people who are artistic, they're creative and they go, oh, well, I was great in terms of, being innovative in the arts or whatever. When I work with conservation organizations, I tell them, stop telling people to save the whales. Stop, you know, feeding on people's like emotion. I get these emails that go, Julie, send us $10 a month to save the giraffes. Otherwise, they're going to be gone. And then they go, oh, we're so disappointed in you. Julie, you didn't send us $10 a month. And I think I've been getting this kind of mail for so long. If that were the case and I were sending them $10 a month, shouldn't these things be saved now?
Very good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
But some of the biggest impact that we have is not that scientist giving you this long treatise and formulas of what we need to do to change climate change, to change this and that. It's the artist
Mhm.
that paints, that sculpts something, that brings to life a picture that hits our heartstrings. You got to get to somebody's heartstrings before you get to their brain, because our brain, we're talking, that's that middle self personality. We're dealing with ego, information. You get a lot farther if you start dealing with a heart center and you start dealing with a higher self. I have, we've all learned in terms of the ins and outs of slavery and the horrors, and you hear the horrible stories. There is an artist in Ghana that has made the most brilliant and gorgeous sculptures that you've ever seen of the faces of people, and it's part of the Akan culture, where he has these busts, and they're in the chokeholds. As if they're being taken to the ships, and he has them so that it's done where they look like they're standing in water. And he didn't have to say anything about the slave trade. He didn't have to say anything about horrors or history or whatever. You look at this, you even look at the photographs, and it touches that heart center, and you kind of feel like I know everything I need to know, because it's the humanity or the inhumanity of it all as how we connect. I explain a lot that we're like an elephant. We're like a man driving an elephant, and the man at the top is our intellect, and it's telling us what we need to do, and the elephant represents the emotion. And guess who drives which way the elephant goes? It's it's all based on the emotion. So you're going to get a lot farther than instead of saying, I need to do this to be successful, and then this and this and this, sitting down and go, what are the emotions that drive me? What's my background, And I'll have clients that get really upset. You keep asking me about my relationship with my parents. This is about my parents. This is about how I grow my business. And it's like, well, I don't know how to explain this to you, but they're all connected. It was very interesting. I did not have a good relationship or a strong relationship with my father. And here I was in working for a Fortune 500 company. And I woke up one day and I noticed that, I was working for this multimillionaire, and he would call on holidays. He would call at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. He just went around the clock.
Mhm.
And I never stopped and said, this is family time, or this is no, or this is, it's enough, it's inappropriate. Always, yeah, okay, I'm here and I'm going to answer your questions at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to come in on the holidays or whatever it is. And I started to look around at the other executives that were working within this Fortune 500 company. And I was sitting with a group of executives. We were on a flight somewhere and our plane was delayed. And they were expecting that I was just going to be talking business. And I asked one of the guys, I said, so I started with this simple, are your parents still alive and are you close to them? And it brought up this whole conversation where every one of them had a dysfunctional relationship with their parents. So we had all been attracted to the situation, and we were all doing crazy things to make this multimillionaire happy. Why? Because we were all looking for the approval of our parents. And as soon as you can identify that and see that and say, you know what? I'm going to look for the approval of the universe instead, because I'm not going to get this from my parents. So I'm going to do a paradigm shift and turn it around. Then all of a sudden, you find yourself in a place where you can begin to set new paradigms and new parameters for yourself to go, I don't need your approval anymore. But all of those emotional things that sit with us and from our early childhood and any traumas, we see them, we replay this out with all the people that we surround ourselves with, friends, the people that we work with, the people that we work for. You can usually identify most of your family members in most of those people.
Yeah.
So as we become aware of it, we say, what do we want to keep? And what do we want to distance ourselves from? You know, for those people who are there and always telling us, no, Angela, that's not the way to do things, you know, or if you would just listen to what I told you, instead of saying, you know, you've got this idea and I just want to be supportive of it, no matter what it is. You kind of begin to see the difference and you go, you know what, for those people who always have to tell me how I'm supposed to live my life, you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to say, I don't want to hear from you anymore. You just kind of want to give yourself distance and you want to remember that they're coming from their own childhood traumas and dysfunctions. And you got enough to deal with your own monkeys in your own circle.
Yes. You don't need theirs added on to yours.
Exactly.
What do you say for people that are fearful of doing a change? What do you say to people who are like almost fear paralysis where they don't like, I don't want to make any move. I'm afraid it's going to be wrong. I don't want to do it. What do you say for that? How do you help people through that fear?
Okay, first of all, fear is universal and we all have it.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge it. I tell people to welcome it in, acknowledge it, take a look at it, because you have to remember, and Carl Jung talks about this in terms of psychology, and here we are with fireflies. It's your shadow. It's the darkness of those things that we're afraid of. But then you have to remember fireflies shine their brightest in the dark.
The dark.
And that gives us that back and forth. You want your fear to walk beside you. It's going to be there. We don't overcome fear. We don't gather courage and put the fear aside. It's there. And trust
Yeah.
me, when we do things that are like big things or little things, because I encourage people to take just little steps. And even those little steps become really big because the fear is
Right.
right there, but you're not letting it drive the elephant. That's the key. And you don't have to do huge things. I encourage people, take a small step. Start by just looking inside. Start by looking at, again, the people around you. I went through this. I had a woman that I had befriended that I had worked with that was so negative and everything was always
Mm.
down. And I realized every time I talked to her, it just drained me of energy, but I never did anything. Okay, here's being paralyzed with fear. Something as simple as that. Never did anything because she was older and I didn't want to hurt her feelings. And la la la, keep going and going and going, and I continued this conversation. This is a woman I used to call every single day to see how she was. She never
Wow.
thought of calling me in return. She, there was nothing reciprocal, and then it was always negative. And she would actually sometimes rate the conversations. Oh, this was a good conversation today. This wasn't so good. And I was like this. And but when you finally wake up and you go, this is ridiculous. I got to do something about this. And of course, then the fear steps in. That's a
Right.
change. And so be patient with yourself and you have to be kind to yourself. And I just, instead of, I'm so sorry, I missed calling you because things have been really crazy. And I want to let you know I'm traveling or I have all these things going on. And I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to call you next, but just know that I'm sending you good thoughts and I'm thinking about you all the time. And it was just stepping back and stepping back and stepping back until they understood that, there weren't any phone calls, but there was no bad feelings. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. there are ways to do, but you can take just small steps. They don't have to be huge. It's like when someone says, gee, I really want to start a workout program, and they go to the gym and they work out for an hour and they come back and the next day they are so sore. Oh my gosh, I'm going to do it one more time. And then they're really so sore and they never ever go back again.
Yeah.
So if you make that change and you say, I want to be healthier and start working out, and you do nothing more than walk around the block for 5 minutes. You do a 5 minute walk around the block and you go, look at me. I did that. I did that today. And now I'm going to do it again tomorrow because it's only 5 minutes and I'm not hurting from this. This was no big deal. And you do that 5 minutes a day for a week. And then you go, you know what? This feels kind of good. I'm kind of enjoying this me time walking around the block. I think I'm going to make it 10 minutes. And you just keep expanding it and expanding it and expanding it and little things. And there are times when it's not going to work, and there are times when it is going to fail. And I have probably some of the most major failures of anybody, but anybody who's ever done anything worthwhile has
Yeah.
fallen on their face, has made mistakes. And part of it is learning to laugh with that along the way. Sometimes it's terrifying, sometimes it hurts. However it feels, allowing yourself to feel that way. But one of the exercises that I've done with people is to say, write down the type of friend you are. All the things that you do for other people. Oh, and you'll get this, these long lists. I'm thoughtful and I call them and I think about them and I do these special things and they know that I'm here and I'm dependent. And when they make mistakes, I support them. When they have a bad day, I tell them it's okay. Take your time getting on the ground. And I say, now take that list of everything that you do for everybody else. And that's what you should be doing for yourself. You have to start as being a good friend to yourself, working with self-care and saying it's okay. And if today I want to make a change, but I'm too afraid to do it and I want to put it off to tomorrow, you know what? That's okay. Sometimes just getting out of bed is a big enough thing that you've done for the day. And then if you could encourage yourself just to do one little thing, pat yourself on the back and say, this was great, because you become your own cheerleader in terms of going through. But you got to start by being a good friend to yourself.
Love that. Love that. And I've got to ask, you have so much great insight, so much great information, and you're just a plethora of knowledge. And it's so cool to hear. When you have discovery calls, what happens on a discovery call and what does a something with you look like?
It's a great question. When someone says that they want a discovery call, I teach that nobody makes it to the top or accomplishes anything that they want by themselves. That's why when you listen to these award shows, we get so bored when they go, I have to thank this person, this person, this person, because we don't know who they are. But those are the people who got them where they want to go. Everybody needs to know what that is. Sometimes that's a coach. Sometimes it's working with a medium. Sometimes it's working with a therapist. And let's say that you say, I want to work with a therapist. Not all therapists are the same. And
Right?
there could be 6 good therapists, but maybe there's only one that's good for you. And I tell people this is a fabulous time to be learning what it's like to work with a coach, or a therapist, because a lot of them do the same thing in terms of discovery calls. So I encourage people to do a discovery call just to find out what that's like. It's not a sales call. Nobody's trying to say you need to sign up for this or that. But what happens when you sign up for it, there is a questionnaire that's sent out that says, where are you at, to give me background. What are you trying to do? What are you hoping for, so that we can get the most out of that 30 minutes? What that call is meant to be is really kind of a clarity call to say, okay, let's get really clear, because a lot of times we're just scattered, but I want to do this over here and I want to do this over there. And then I was thinking maybe I could add this to the mix. And we're going to get clear on what's the top priority. You can do all the things that you want to do, but you can only do them one at a
One
time.
at a time.
So it's working on saying, let's get really clear on what it is that you want to do and what you're thinking about in terms of ways to move forward. And then usually I will get a good download to say, here's some different ways that you could do this. I'll give you an example. I just did a session with someone just this weekend that had written a book on the Holocaust and was turning this into a play. And she said, I'd like to do this, but I'm not really monetizing this at all. And I'm not sure how to do this in terms of business. But she came to me not for that. She came to me because she has an old collection of pillows that she had made, I guess, 5 or 10 years ago. And she said, I'm thinking I should set up an Etsy shop to sell these. Well, as we're talking and we're getting clear, it's like, you know what? It's really nice that you want to sell the pillows, but you're not invested in that. You're invested in what you're working with now and working with a play and working with this book. Um, and I said, the pillows were very theatrical. And I said, but you're turning this into a play. You'll probably, if you allow yourself, you can meet the right person in the theater community that will take place of that. But if you pivot and you spend all this time creating a new shop, doing a whole new venture, you're not paying attention to this play that you're creating. And I said, let's look at some different business models and showed her how between what she was doing, because she is lecturing and teaching,
Mm.
but to say, you know what, imagine a subscription box where you can take what you're doing with the play and be sending letters from the 1940s of World War II. That's, a month
Um,
type of thing. And it wasn't to say this is the answer to it or this is what you should do, but it's to say, and she went, I just realized that there are probably 50 different things that I could do to
right.
this work that fits into the whole thing. So that's the concept of one of the discovery calls, is just to try to get some clarity, to inspire and to get people excited for the next thing. And hopefully to stay on the list. And I work in a number of ways, and I let people know when there are coaching spots that are available. I don't like, which is why I don't sell any of this when I'm doing the clarity call, because I look at these people who are coaching who have 10,000 people that they reach, and I'm sure you've heard of this, and they hire all these different coaches that,
Yeah.
and I go, oh, I'm doing this because I want to work with you as a coach. And you go, well, you're going to be working with somebody that I trained.
Right. Right.
And
Yep.
I don't want to do that. I keep it very limited because the people that are there, I want them to connect with each other because that's what fun
Right.
do. And I want to be on one and not do it where people go, I'm really not getting as much as I want to get from the experience. So I do let people know when those are open, but a lot of times I find, and you had mentioned that you do retreats,
Mhm.
and I do a lot of workshops. So the concept is too, looking at, maybe that's all you need is a 2 to 3 day retreat just to kind of get you centered and get you going. Maybe it doesn't need to be a weekly call or even a monthly call. Maybe you go, okay, I got this. This is what I need to work on, and I'm ready to fly. And if I need this again, I'll be back in 6 months or a year, and we'll do it again. Because we all have to keep remembering, that the stuff
Yeah.
that we already know. And but it's just to let people know kind of how that works.
And how your workshops, are they online, in person? How do they
I'm
work?
actually talking about being able to do some online. I'd really like to do that, to be able to reach different people. I
Yeah.
love doing things in person just because I like connecting with people.
It is
But
fun.
um, but I'm reviewing this in terms of covering this all the way around. I'm juggling this with, and I'll give you some inside scoop. I have, and it's sitting behind me right now in a miniature version. Um, I've created an exhibit of all the people that I've written about in terms of
Oh,
fireflies, and it actually has a small blinking firefly um, centerpiece with the concept of introducing people with pictures, because I think it's different when you see the person that
yes.
I've written about. And even on my website, I always tell people, scroll down to the bottom and you'll see the pictures of some of the people who are in the book. But I think it changes things, and they're all doing different things. So I've written about each person, but I've got their pictures, I've got interactives with it, I've got scan codes that You can find more about that organization if you'd like to be a part of it. But then the concept is here's this centerpiece of fireflies with a mirror saying, take a look at yourself with the fireflies behind. What kind of firefly do you want to be? What is your special light that you want to bring to the world? And I'm working on getting that as a traveling exhibit because I really want to start reaching, we need to reach people everywhere and on every
Yes.
wavelength. And what I'm looking to do is to set up workshops in conjunction so that there will be online workshops, but wherever the exhibit goes, that I can do in-person workshops in different cities all the way across the states. And then, hopefully the rest of the world, because the people that I've written about come from all over the world. And the
I was
connect
looking through. It's like, oh my gosh, they're from everywhere.
Yeah, the connections that we make together. And it was great. I actually had the opportunity to do a workshop for public artists in northern Michigan. And there are things that are, it's like serendipity. It's that synchronous firefly thing over and over and over again. I had a woman who said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm having such a good time with this. I have to miss the workshop tomorrow. I'm an artist, but my husband and I are traveling to Australia. And I went, oh, I went to school in Australia. Where are you going to be? And she said, oh, well, you talk about being on the Northeast coast. I'm going to the West. I'm going to Perth. And I said, one of the women that I've written about, who is an artist, is in Perth.
Oh,
And this was the woman who designed dolls that they've used in South Africa. This was Georgia Effort, who was part of the Utando Foundation, where they created dolls of color to use for nurturing for kids during the AIDS crisis in South Africa. And they still do that just to help in terms of therapy sessions with kids. And it's volunteers that make these. Well, here's Georgia, and here's this woman telling me she's going to Perth. And I said, I'm going to have you both meet each other. So when I said to you, these people continually do things that amaze me. Georgia had sent me an email. This woman is 84 years old, and she just
wow.
had her very first art exhibits of just her art, which is like, you know what? It's never too late. And
Right.
need everybody in every way, but it was wonderful. And I've put different people together like that, where I say the only thing I ask in return is send me a picture so that I can see that you guys connected. And sure enough, they had a wonderful time and two artists connecting. And we need to be connecting. And this is a wonderful thing. We can talk about the dangers of technology and this and that, or we can also say it's putting us in touch with like-minded people around the world. And when we make those connections, and they don't always have to be physical, we know that as spirits, we connect with each other through dreams, through different dimensions, on all kinds of different levels. But there can be a more conscious awareness of the people that we're
Yes.
connecting with around the world, which elevates everybody.
Absolutely. And when all the world started shutting down and all the stuff happened, I was super excited. I was one of those like those little my husband's like, you're like that yapping dog. Oh, this is great. This is great. And he's like, would you be quiet? I'm like, no, it's great. It's great. Because everybody started going to do things online. Everybody was getting comfortable doing it. It started being normal. And this is a way to reach across the globe. And you can do it in an instant and it's all real time. People can be connected that never would have found each other before. And it's an
Exactly.
amazing time. Amazing time. And you have been connecting people all around the world and so many different people. In the book, I'm highly encouraging people go get the book, go on Amazon, go on your website. It's the Flying Lessons for Fireflies. It's how to shine your light brighter and transform the world because all of you, like you said, all of us are unique. Everybody's light is needed. And the brighter we shine, this world changes
Yes.
in ways we've never seen before. We're all on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
And you, thank goodness, Julie, you've been on the cutting edge for a very long time. I appreciate you taking your path.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is realizing after a period of time to say, I crave community. And
Yeah.
what does that look like? And there is community in person, but there's also community online. And I can expand that to reach people all over the world. And I can also have that here, and to take advantage and have a hybrid of both is really, really wonderful. There's a whole movement right now that's going on in Europe that's called the offline movement. And
Oh,
they're taking this is really exciting where they're taking in communities, uh, natural history museums, parks, whatever. And they're saying, okay, we're all going offline for an afternoon and we're going to play or bring a book. We're all going to sit around, just hang out and read. We're going to try teas. We're going to do a craft together. We're going to laugh. We're just going to connect to go, okay, this is your community here. And I have an exercise in the book called Look at Your Feet and then Look at the Horizon. This is it here. And now let's expand that because now we can take that online and use what the technology we have and do the same thing to connect with people around the world.
I love that. And that's another huge thing with your book. There's exercises in it. It's in you are invested in the book. You're being part of the book. You're doing your own playtime. And we were talking a little bit earlier about Julie loves pop-up books. And to have I said for me it's like have an adult pop-up fun playbook. That's what we all need. And I'm just going to say, Julie also does, you sign up for her information, sign up on her website. She does a weekly email, and her email this week was the power of play and how we all need to take time to play more. So, Julie, you are offering such amazing information and stuff to keep people engaged and not just mindlessly just scrolling, but to like, oh, what can we do? What can we do? Everybody has so much potential. Let it shine.
Yeah, if we only allow ourselves, and this, and this information is nothing new. We've been saying it for thousands of years. People who take yoga, what you always hear namaste. Namaste is ancient Sanskrit, and it basically refers to the light in me sees the light in you. So it's like, let's get past all the baloney of, what is your position and what do you do for a living? And let's go, the light in me sees the light in you and just connect.
I love that. I love that because one of the things for me is I always look at, I don't care what you do. I don't care about your position. I don't care if you're white, black, pink, purple with polka dots. I don't care. Who are you as a person? That's all that matters.
Exactly. And it makes for much better conversations. I have, a lot of people belong to book clubs. We have a library that has a fabulous used bookstore. And I've actually made friends in the used bookstore where we have what we now call, whenever anybody's in town and they can drop in, we call it the Thursday afternoon non-reading book club because we end up talking and we just share the names of books that we like. And oh, you have to read. We don't like discuss a book like anybody else says. I just learned this and you got to check out this book and that book. And I can tell you all about these people. I can tell you about where they grew up. I can tell you about the things that they like. Ask me what any of them do for a living, and I have no idea.
I love it.
But is it really important? What's important is who they are as people. And we'll get together for coffee, for tea, for lunch here and there, just to share information. And it's like, if you say you want to create this new world, you have to walk the walk. So if I say I want to live in a world where people can be really authentic,
Yes.
that's what I need to do. And it's not saying, oh, things are wonderful when they're not. It's being honest and to say it's okay to share that, oh, I tried this and it's not working, or oh boy, did I mess up on this thing. And when we are each authentic, we are working at creating the world that we want to live in.
I love that. That is so true. That is so true. It's time to get out of the labels we've given people. Whatever labels you have on, let it go and just get to know people on that heart level. It's so important. It's where we want to go. If that's the world you want to see, then you have to live it. Like you said, you have to live it. And I've got to say, for those who are trying to figure out how do I live that? How do I do that? Get your book. Get your book, listen to yours and go through it because you can see. But it's leading with your heart And it is so important as we go forward. So important.
It's leading with your heart. It's that, your soul knows the way. If you
Yeah.
just learn how to listen. And then the next thing that I push that's really important is to know what is your code of values, being
Mhm.
authentic, living with integrity and transparency, having ethics, being kind, all those things that are important to you. You got to make sure that you're doing them. And those are the things that help you make choices that put you in the place that you need to be for the universe to come and help and make your dreams become reality.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I know we've been going over for a while.
I know, I know. But this has been just wonderful. And
It's
yes, and to everyone who tunes into this, you have a very, very special gift and so much to share with the world. I mean, you are a true firefly, and that it helps illuminate the world, and it touches so many more people than you even realize. And you
oh,
never know. You talk about being a medium. I remember when I was very, very little, on Saturday nights being told it's time to go to bed and sitting
mm,
up in my bed, there was a psychic that used to come on from a place in, like, I could get this radio station in Paducah, Kentucky. Now, this was a person who was helping people all over. And this person never realized, what an impact that they had on me in terms of
oh,
listening. So my point is, all the people that are listening to you, you don't always realize the people that you are connecting with that go, yeah, I get it. And that don't always call or write or say, this, and maybe it's an aha moment that they have a month later or 2 months later. But as long as we're reaching people, that's what it's all about.
oh, thank you so much. And I totally agree. It's about reaching people. And it's for me, it's been reaching people, but showing people what other people are out there. To show people like showing people like you, Julie, and saying, here's somebody. If and I know not everybody's gonna resonate with me, and that's fine. Here's some other people. Look, explore, go to have a call, listen to them, look, check into their things because everybody resonates with someone different. And to have that option out there, we're not we're not in competition. We're here.
No, and we need that diversity. And, I
Yes.
always tell everybody, never settle, never go,
Yes.
oh, this is one of the problems that we have in terms of therapy is somebody will say, well, I tried it and it didn't work. And I stayed with them. And it's like, maybe that wasn't the right therapist. Maybe,
Right.
or I used this coach. Maybe it wasn't the right coach. Don't settle. You keep going because that connection will be there, which is again one of the reasons this is such a wonderful time because so many people say, I will give you the complimentary call so you can know whether, when you're ready to work with someone, if it's a year from now, it's 5 years from now, to know what that looks like or what you want that to look like for you. Or maybe you have a mentor in your own life and you go, I need you to do, the same thing in terms of offering me the clarity. And it's like the more knowledge that we have, the higher we can climb.
Absolutely. And right now it's all about seeing how many people can start shining their light so bright the top of that hill. Let's do it together because this is a time. We're in a time of extreme change and chaos brings change. The more chaos, I've been super excited about all the chaos because I know the more chaos we have, the more change we're bringing in. This is an awesome time to be here. Shine your light, be a firefly, find a way to shine it brighter. That's what we need.
I keep telling people the world is changing and we are on the transition team. And if you stand on the sidelines, you're giving permission for someone else to figure out our future. We each know inside of us what we want that to look like. And between all the chaos, that is our turn to stand up and say, no, this is my vision for what I want to do and how I want to live my life.
And to start living it. Start living it the way you want to live. Do it now. Don't worry about what you're told you can and can't do. Let that go out the window. Live it the way you want to and show others they can too. That's a firefly. You're a firefly, Julie, a big one.
Thank you.
Well, is there something else you want to cover before we close for today?
I think we've probably talked everybody's ears off for anybody who's listening, but there's always more. So I would tell anybody keep tuning in to everything that you have to say and start tuning into yourself.
That is awesome advice. People, pay attention to yourself, keep looking, keep striving, and keep shining bright. And I want to encourage everyone again, make sure to go to Julie's website, extraordinaryfireflies.com. You're going to find all this information. You're going to find the downloads, the worksheets. You're going to find so much on there. Get her book because you're going to find other worksheets in there, things to do. So definitely check that all out. And then go on her Facebook, Instagram. She's on LinkedIn. Check all that out. And along with all her other coaching programs, check it all out because she has the Firefly Path coaching programs also. So we're here to transform the world. Check out Julie. She's transforming it. So I just want to thank you again, Julie. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
thank you. It's really been a lot of fun being here.
I agree. This has been an awesome time. So exciting. Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you so much. And thank you for sharing who you are, sharing your heart, sharing your knowledge. And I also want to encourage everyone to make sure to watch the next episodes of Edge Talk Radio. They're on the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you've missed any past episodes, no worries. You can listen to them on pretty much all of the downloadable podcast app areas that are out there. And you can also watch the episodes on my YouTube channel or Edge Magazine's YouTube channel. And I just want to thank all of you for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Have an absolutely amazing day.